If you've ever listened to Taylor Swift's 1989, you know it's got a very specific sound. Every song on the album feels nostalgic, but still somehow current, even though it's been a long time since this album was first released. But how's this done? In this video, I'm gonna show you exactly which production choices make 1989 what it is, from drums to vocal production, so that when you're done with this video, you can make a very similar song in your home studio. Okay, so one of the first things I like to do to figure out how a song is produced is I use Fader. They have this plugin called Stems, and you can use it on a web browser, so just like when you're online, or you can use it as a plugin inside your DAW. Basically what this does is it separates the song into different parts. So we can listen to drums or vocals, for example, separately from everything else, and we can get a better idea of what it sounds like. Okay, so what I just did is I imported Out of the Woods by Taylor, obviously, into my session. And now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna drag and drop it in here, and there you go. You can see it's uploading, and in a second it's gonna separate the stems and we can kind of hear all the individual parts and see what's up. Okay, we've got it right here. Let's check out what the drums are doing. I'm literally just gonna drag them right here, and now we can go ahead and listen and get a better idea. There are a few things I'm seeing here immediately. First is that this is a very busy drum pattern, right? This is not a light little kick, snap, kick, kick, snap. No, we've got toms here. We've got hats here. We've got a snare, we've got a kick. We've got a lot going on, and the pattern is busy in a good way. It like really takes up space. You know, there's especially a lot going on with moments like this, where the hi-hat is keeping that rhythm, but then it's also getting enhanced with toms, like this fill right here. Another thing I'm hearing, of course, are the sample choices themselves. With my drums, I often really like to imagine them as if a real drummer is playing them. And what I specifically like to think about is the space they're playing in, right? Are they playing in a really dry, tight, small studio? Are they in a garage? Are they in a stadium? Just hearing this, I'm immediately feeling like, you know, a large concert hall, a lot of reverb, drums that really have the impact. So that's the kind of samples I'm gonna look for. Just to kind of demonstrate for you guys, I literally just typed in tom, right? And you can see I have a lot of tom samples on my computer. But if I just randomly start playing through these, right? This sample, for example, that is so subtle and that is so small. That completely does not fit what we're looking for. Also, these toms, they're very light, right? I don't hear a lot of bottom frequencies in them. But this fill, for example, that's like exactly the kind of thing we're looking for. All right, guys, so I got my track here. I'll play you the drum section that I have. All right, so we're coming in strong with a kick that is layered with a stomp, specifically to create that really large, impactful feeling. It sounds like this when all three stems are together. If you take out the stomp, it's missing a little bit of that crunchiness. And of course, I also am using this kick top right here. So this is specifically from my sample pack, Must Have Pop. I have like kicks divided into tops and bottoms in there. And this is one of the tricks I use a lot, is just layering something really cutting with a kick. And here specifically, I'm also adding some reverb to it for that kind of epic feeling. As you can see, the mode is like a 1980s mode, so it makes sense. Yeah, and if you take that out, yeah, listen how just like nothing it sounds. Right? But you add that verb. Oh, suddenly we're in that stadium like I was talking about earlier. Again, because that feeling of like largeness, big space where music is being performed, it makes me think of orchestras. So I'm using this orchestral roll right here for signaling the start of this part. Again, keeping up with the idea of wanting these drums to sound like it's all part of a big performance, I've got these really heavily reverbed claps. And these are designed to blend in with the snare like this. You know, the snare is providing that cut, that impact. And then, of course, the clap is providing the verby feeling. And of course, we can't forget making sure that this part does feel kind of full, busy, but in a good way. So I have this tom part right here that's doing a lot. As you can see, it's got a lot of rhythm built into it. And I think out of everything I showed you guys, this is really nailing that 1989 sound, right? Because if you think about that record, it really is inspired by the 80s. And one of the first things I think about when I think about the 80s is the drummer, right? With a huge kit playing those really busy, powerful tom parts. So that's exactly what Taylor and her production team were trying to replicate. That's exactly what I'm trying to replicate here. But okay, let's go back to the stems plugin here and let's take a look at what's going on with the bass. I'm just gonna grab it like I did before, drag it out here, and let's check it out. Okay, so we've got a simple but powerful drone bass. Now, how do I know that this is a drone and not an 808, for example? Well, listen to how wide this sounds. Right? And for anybody new, if you're like, what is wide and what is narrow when it comes to music? So we have a stereo field. You're listening on your computer speakers or headphones, 2 ears, right? And the width is basically how much it seems that you're hearing the sound in each particular ear, or how blended in it is to where it feels like it's sitting right in the middle of your face. It's the best, like, easiest way I can describe it. So a drone bass is usually a pretty wide sounding bass, and usually it plays like whole notes. So exactly what we heard is just like rah, rah, rah. Very simple, no rhythm. But then in addition to this drone, we also have a rhythmic bass part. I'm sure you guys can picture it in your minds, you know, where she goes, are we out of the woods? Yeah, are we out of the woods? There's like a pulsing bass underneath it. You can hear it a little bit right here. You know, da 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 da. So in both a drone bass and a rhythmic synth bass like this are like classic 1989 moves. The 80s was when the humans who make music pretty much discovered synthesizers. They were around before that, but this is where they became like super mainstream, super popular. And a lot of bands and artists were heavily experimenting with synths, including bass, because, you know, mostly before then, people were playing electric bass, they were playing like a double bass. So this is when this became huge and what Taylor is paying homage to. So we're gonna do the same thing. All right, so we've got a rhythmic bass that sounds like this. So this preset, it's from my sample pack too. And when you're making a bass like this, you want to pick something like this that's emulating an analog synth, right? Because think about what they had back in the 80s. They had all those keyboards, and that is where the synth sounds came from. They didn't have, you know, these types of plugins at that time. So you want it to sound like it came from an old keyboard, something like a Juno. And of course, because we are in the 2020s, right? Like there is leeway to make it more modern, to experiment. Even in Taylor songs, it's not, you know, authentic to the era. They do more modern moves. One of the ones I'm doing here is I'm adding portamento or glide. If you listen like real close, pay attention to these two notes right here. Do you hear that? It kind of glides up and glides down. That's the portamento doing its thing. That wasn't necessarily an 80s move, but I like it here. And then of course we can't forget about our drone. So I did one right here. Simple long notes, wide sounding. And I'm also using Serum for this. It's a good instrument for many different types of synths. But I do think I came really close here. If you listen to this original bass from Taylor's song, sounds like that. And this is the one I did. The other one is almost more like kind of messy. It's got like little movements in it. I really like it, but I also like this one's a little bit more just simple. And okay, let's move on. What I want to do now is take a look at this other stem. So this is going to end up being just different things in the track that don't really fall into like the bass or the drums category or the vocals. So it's going to be a lot of synths, effects, things like that. I just want to scope through, see what's up. Classic. So this is like a vocal chop, male vocal from what it sounds like. You can hear some of the synths also in the background of that, kind of pulsing. Oh, very interesting, like creepy effect right there. It almost sounds like somebody talking through a radio, but honestly could be anything. That's interesting. So that's a guitar or almost, could be a sitar, could be banjo. And here's the chorus. Obviously, this is like everything together, right? We hear the vocals, we hear the guitar, we hear the synths. So, and what this is kind of letting me know is we just need like a wall of sound, something really thick, really powerful that covers kind of all the registers, right? Because if you think about that guitar, it's pretty jangly. You can really hear the strings, so it's a little bit of a higher frequency sound. But then we've got that male vocal, right? That does have a little bit more of a mid-rangey quality. So what we need to do is just fill out our sonic spectrum with different instruments to where it feels really big and full and satisfying. All right, so I've got this pad right here. It's real simple, but you can hear it's kind of pulsing a little bit as well. And if I'm not mistaken, yeah, this is also Serum. This is actually from my pack as well. So just a really simple foundational sound, right? Then I've got this pad on top of it. Doing a little bit of fancier things with this one, so I'm panning it left and right. This is a free plugin that just moves your sound from one ear to the next. This is also a thinner sounding pad than this top one, which again helps put a little bit more frequencies in the upper registers versus in the mids. This one is very mid heavy. I'm also gonna do yet another pad. Synth pads for the win in this song. So this one's gonna be higher octave. It's almost whistly sounding, so that's why I have it pretty low in the mix. I don't want too much of this, right? And this is usually like simple instrument stacking, guys, right? We have a bass sound, not bass the instrument, but bass as in basic, the basis of what we're building. So we got this one. We're adding this one for the panning movement and the higher frequencies, and then we're adding this for that higher note. And this is what makes it sound fuller, not like over full, because every part is deliberate. I'm also adding these piano notes here. Very simple classic move to just add a lot of power. I very often will take a bright piano like this and just double up the bass notes of my chords with it and just kind of tuck it in. Now, I'm also bringing in strings here. I know we didn't hear them in Out of the Woods, but there are some really beautiful string arrangements on 1989. I especially immediately think of Wildest Dreams. So I did this with my strings. So they're holding, playing legato things just like the pad. And then I also added some staccato strings right here as well. So this is another way to add fullness, right? We have talked about stacking based on frequency spectrum, based on octave. This is based on rhythm, right? Because we haven't had anything that rhythmic yet. We have all these held notes, legato strings, pads, etc., piano. So when we add these strings, look what it does. A lot of energy is being added, a lot of rhythm without it being too much. All right, let's just listen to a little bit of this instrumental just to see how it feels. Personally, I feel like this really works. We've got the big drums. We've got the kind of thick instrumental as far as our synths. We've got the pulsing bass. So now we just need to think about vocals. All right, let's go ahead and grab these, drag them out, see what Taylor's isolated voice sounds like.
Two paper airplanes flying, flying, flying. And I remember thinking, are we out of the woods yet? Are we out of the woods yet? Are we out of the woods yet? Are we out of the woods? Are we in the clear yet? Are we in the clear yet? Are we in the clear yet? In the clear yet? Good.
Okay, so there's quite a few things I'm hearing immediately. So Taylor's kind of known, at least in this era, for doing these like shouting vocals. It's still singing, it's not yelling, but it is very powerful, and it's like, oh, you're like scream singing to the whole world to hear your message. Like this, for example.
And I remember thinking.
There are a few ways to create that sound. The most important thing is the performance. You know, it's just really singing out from the gut and getting that volume, but it is also layering things up. So this is what I did right here. And before I play this for you guys, just to explain what this recording is. So I did this for my YouTube channel where I remake songs without ever hearing them. So this is technically Fate of Ophelia, the lyrics from that song, but I completely like rebuilt all the music and the melody because I had never heard it up until the point I made this. So in case you're like, what am I hearing? It is that. But let's go back to that idea of the really big shouty vocal. So I've got some right here.
Keep it 100 on the land, the sea, the sky.
So as you can hear, I am, you know, singing out loud.
And the sea, the sky.
I'm really attacking the words. But I also have this vocal right here strengthening that performance.
Land, the sea, the sky.
So what this is a gang vocal. As you can see, I'm singing the main melody right here. And just listen to it soloed.
Keep it 100 on the land, the sea.
And then I'm also emphasizing certain parts of it, like land, sea, sky, with vocals an octave above.
Land, sea, sky.
And as you can hear, I'm like shout singing, really projecting. This is a classic move for strengthening any vocals you want to feel extra powerful. And what I'm specifically doing with processing here is I'm just adding a bit of distortion. This is also a classic move for gangs because you don't want them to be clean and pristine. They're supposed to be tucked under your lead vocals, providing texture. But let's take a look at some of Taylor's other vocals here.
Looking at it now, it all seems so simple.
So one of the things Taylor's doing here, she's leaning into an airy performance. Listen to this pull of simple. She's exhaling into the ending of her word. Instead of just being like, simple, she really pushes the air out. Simple. Something like that. So I did similar performances in my remake, especially on Megaphone right here.
Phone.
I'm fully exhaling at the end. And finally, let's take a look at this Taylor vocal right here.
Furniture so we could dance, baby, like we stood a chance. 2 paper airplanes flying.
So right here, we've got a lot of harmony. There's like a continuous union harmony going on through this whole section. So we do need some harmonies. My biggest advice to any of you guys who are newer at harmony is to find emphasis points and put them there. So ask yourself, what feels like it sticks out musically? That probably is a good spot for harmony. Like this, for example.
All that time sat alone in my tower, you were just.
All that time you were just. The reason those stick out is because it's a very different rhythm from the line right after it. And these two rhythms match each other. So there's a natural emphasis on them. And then another way to find emphasis points is just to look at the lyrics. What are important lyrics? What are the messages that you're wanting to convey more than anything else? For example, right here, I think the words me, myself, and I are really important.
I swore loyalty to me, myself, and I.
So that's why I have this harmony there.
Me, myself, and I.
And all right, guys, if you follow these steps, you should be able to create something inspired by 1989. I'm gonna play you a little bit of this remake and let's see what I got.
I heard you calling on the megaphone. You wanna see me all alone. As legend has it, you're quite the pyro. You light the match to watch it blow. And if you'd never come for me, I might have drowned in melancholia. I swore loyalty to me, myself, and I. Right before you lit up my sky. All that time sat alone in my tower. You were just honing your powers. Now I can see it all. Late one night you dug me out of my grave and saved my heart from the fate of Ophelia. Ophelia. Ophelia.
And that's it, you guys. Comment to let me know what your favorite technique from 1989 is, production-wise. Hit sub for more tutorials, and I'll see you next time.